Okay, so before I make this video and go into detail of how to make this, let's have a look at the finished result, because that's what you're really aiming for. And so this is what you'll get with what I've done. As you can see, you've got a very professional panelled looking finish from relatively cheap IKEA furniture. And I haven't had to do what a lot of people do, which is to get plain doors and then stick trim all over it to try and make it look panelled. It's much easier, in fact, to buy IKEA furniture that already has panels on it. Makes life much simpler. So they do a panelled door like this. They do it in a few colours, and you get a lovely finish. And the other trick you'll see, and if you decide to watch all of my video, is that I've got this top and bottom looking again integrated, and I've done that by buying the same coloured doors but not panelled, just plain doors, and then making slices out of them and using those slices to create a top finish and a bottom finish, and that allows me to raise the units off the floor by about 6 inches and then hide the platform I've made using those slices of door at the bottom, and likewise have it go flush the ceiling, because if you don't go flush the ceiling it doesn't look as good, and also you'll end up storing rubbish up there. And the other trick, another trick, again it's all focused on using plain doors and doing slices of them, is you get this nice finish separating the units. Normally if you fit IKEA units you have a door straight next to a door, but as you can see I've got it with bits of trim at the end so it goes nicely to the wall. I've got infill in between the doors, again there and there, all the way along. Every door, double doors of course don't, and that's normal, but whenever you've got two units matching I've got a nice separator in between, and that's just made out of the end of a door. The door only costs £25, and so it's well worth paying £12.50 to take a slice of door for each of those. It gives such a better finish. And then again at this wall over here, again a piece of infill so the door isn't right up against this bay window. So that's my two biggest tricks. One big trick I suppose really is to use slices of door, I suppose, and the second trick is to use panelled doors. Don't bother messing around sticking bits onto plain doors and painting them. Much easier to buy finished doors, they're not that expensive. And then again raise it up on a platform, gives it more of a special look if it's up on a platform. We had to use this mirrored one because to make up the right size for the room, because you couldn't get those doors in 200mm thicknesses in order to create the right width. And actually having a mirrored door looks really nice in the middle. We'll look inside them and have a look. So I haven't put handles on yet, you'll notice. We've still under discussion what handles we need, what we'd like. But as you can see, each cupboard has a light that comes on when you open and close it. Very nice. This one's particularly difficult to open. That's the other side. There we go. Nice full height unit there. Again with a light. This one's a showy piece, this middle door, because it has a glass jewellery display, a slide out tray in it. Store the wife's jewellery in. And then these nice drawers with sections in them. All of the drawers, again soft closing, you'll see. Nice, so you get those, and you get baskets at the bottom. Okay, inside this one you can see that we've got some shelves, and in this case we need a light on every shelf, otherwise it looks really not quite so good at all. But so we've got some shelves with bag displays and small little drawers at the bottom. Okay, and then we'll look in the final cupboard, which is my one, as is the usual split. My wife has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doors, and I have 2. About the usual split for men and women's storage, I suspect. We've got my clothes and my drawers down there. So yes, so this is what, if you persevere and watch the rest of the video, which I'm not a super editor, so you'll have to tolerate it being far from professional, but I'll show you exactly how I built it, and you can copy it if you want. Works a treat. And just a final look at what you get for that. And for around £2,000, so very much cheaper than if somebody was to come in and professionally fit it. Now we'll go on to describe how you do it. Okay, the first thing I did before I started building the units was actually to create a base. I wish I'd made a video of this, but I didn't remember to at the time. Basically, I made the base out of a ladder structure made of CLS wood, and then I clad the top of it with board. The aim was to make it so the units were higher up and look more professionally fitted rather than down low on the ground. I raised it up about 4 inches or so, and then I used this structure to put all the wardrobes on top of. It also gave me the opportunity to level the floor out by levelling this structure before putting the wardrobes on top of it. So I think this is a great start. You need to build this base first. If the IKEA wardrobes are not going to be flush against the wall, you need to reinforce the back of double wardrobes. Otherwise, this bit gets pushed in and out from inside by the coat hangers. So here I've cut a strip of 18mm MDF, 194 centimeters high, which will screw into the bottom and top of the wardrobe to reinforce it. So you can see I've screwed it very carefully into the top of the wardrobe and into the bottom of the wardrobe, down there, giving this reinforcement. I might also brace it off the wall. The reason we're going to be a certain distance off that wall is because we're aiming to the front to finish level with this bay window here. So with the front there, it doesn't happen to go exactly back to the wall, it's slightly off. So it's also handy because we need to plug in the lights, and of course the plug socket is there, and the plug top itself would then require a cut into the wardrobe. So we need to have it standing off a bit. So yeah, next is to screw this one to that wall over there. You can see I built a platform down here. You'll see it better when it's all put together, but there's a platform I built which is made out of 63mm CLS and then some 18mm ply on top, just to give it that extra bit of height, so that under there we can put a nice bit of nice bit of grey trim rising off the ground, so you don't get these nasty cheap looking IKEA bottom bits. Instead you'll be flush with the door with my trim, and I'll make that out of plain doors. So if you get a plain IKEA door like this one that's got no pattern on it at all, then you can make trims out of it. These are only like 25 quid, and you can make 2 trims out of them because it's got 2 finished edges on it. So for example, I'm going to cut that in half. I'm going to put in between each of the cupboards one piece of that, which will look nice, and then at the bottom I'll put 2 of them along the bottom and 2 of them along the top to finish it. So that's what I'm using, because you can't buy end panels. You can buy these IKEA plain doors, and they work just as well. Okay, so I've cut my little infills out. These are the ones that are going to go in between the wardrobes to give it a more refined look. I was quite surprised to find that actually IKEA doors aren't solid wood. They are hardboard filled with cardboard. I don't know if that's to keep the weight down or probably to make them cheaper to make, but only the very little bit at the front and around the frame is actually wood. The rest of it after this is in fact cardboard. But it doesn't matter, because the only bit we actually want is this finished front end, and then another quarter of it to use at the back of that same one, so we can get 2 finishings out of one door. Okay, so here's how the infills are attached. As you can see, I've screwed one quarter of a door there and a quarter of the door at the back. This quarter is unfinished on both sides because you don't see it, and this one I can screw in from the side with 30mm screws, which won't go through the other side. And then what I did is I temporarily screwed through this side with 40mm screws to get it lined up with the door still on, because of course I couldn't screw inside but the door's still on. I got it all sort of tacked it with 40mm screws, and then from the other side through the existing holes I then drilled through those with 40mm screws and then removed my tacking screws from the back. I did this because I want to be able to relocate it later if I need to from inside the wardrobe, whereas if my final screws were on the back I wouldn't be able to adjust it. But I have to start off from the back so I can level it with the door. So screw through the back, screw through the inside, remove the back. And that's my infill, which when you see the door closed will make it look more sophisticated. So a little bit of a recap on what screws to use for doing your side trims. When you're tacking it to the side from there to hold it in place, you'd use 430s, that's 30mm long. Then the second stage, you screw through from inside the cupboard into that before removing the tacking screws, and those you use 4x40. And then once you've positioned it in so it looks nice like this, as you can see, this is the end goal. The end goal is to have that nice looking join in between units. Another one there for the mirror. To get those down, the last thing is to screw through from inside the door, through the filler strip and into the next cupboard. And for those you use the 4x50s. So 30s for tacking, 40s for screwing it in place before you fit it, and then you remove the tackings. And when it's all in place, you put your 50s through, which hold that and to the cupboard next to it. So as we've joined together the double wardrobe, the 550 wide one, single one, and the 75 wide one, which only comes in mirrored effect, you can't have matching grey, but oh well. We've put all the lights in we want down there. As it was, I hadn't ordered. We realised that putting just one light at the top there was a bit rubbish. If you turn it on, you'll see only really that's the top shelf. So my solution was to not have a light in this cupboard. My wife's solution is probably the best, but obviously a bit more painful in my pocket, is to have a light on every shelf. So I'm going to buy another 3 lights. So what these things doing here at the moment, they're going to be draw wires to pull through later the light wires for those, so they can go to my central junction mess over here, which I'm going to cut a hole in the back of this cupboard next to the plug socket. So if there's room, I'll put that inside behind the basket. If there's not, I'll put it on the wall through the hole. Either way, this is wiring central here. I might, as long as they pull through nicely, I'll probably replace it with like the IKEA wire drawn all the way through, like these ones. But if I have problems, I've used real wire, double wire, so actually I could just cut the IKEA wire in half and bridge it with these two if I needed to. So I'll give myself some options there. Right, we've attached this one aside. We've got our framing part, our insert. I'm going to do the other one. Remember, we do the ones with the rough on both sides. For the back, I'm going to put that one on there, and then I'll put this unit in here and screw it on, and then we're one closer to the end. Okay, so that's that next one fixed in. This one's not done yet. This one's fixed in now. You'll notice I'm using, or you might notice, I'm using strips I bought from B&Q of very perfectly cut like slithers of timber they sell with the mouldings next to the mouldings. One's 6mm thick and the other is 4mm thick, which gives me some different combinations I can achieve between those. So I put those underneath as wedges to adjust the height, and I super glue them together in the combination one, put a bit of super glue on top and then slide them under, so I can make up my differences as to where I need to get things. So yeah, the wires are all there in a mess there at the moment. I haven't decided yet whether they'll mount behind the drawer. I can't remember how close the drawer goes to the back, or whether I'll put them through that hole that I've cut using the multi-tool. I've cut that hole in the back there for the plug socket, so we can get to it. The other plug socket in the other cupboard, I've just drawn plug socket in a square on it to remind me if I ever need to get to it, but I haven't bothered accessing it. So there we go. Everything is ready for me to mount this last one. So I need to go and cut another door in half to make this this filler strip here. As we can see, my wife wanted the filler strips because it makes it look a bit more like bespoke furniture than if you've just got doors butted up against each other. So as you can see, there we go. Okay, so I just thought I'd do a bit of a video outside of you of me doing the cutting using the skill saw and how to measure. So this is my one of my sacrificial doors, of which I'll have about 5 or 7 depending on how I finish it, and I'm cutting it into quarters. The joy of this, thankfully, is it's only the edge you need, so actually the depth measurement isn't really that important, but it's still nice to have a straight line when you're cutting. So what I did is I cut, first of all, I divided it roughly in half. So I measured from one end to 140 millimeters, 24 centimeters, to the middle, and drew a line all the way along there. So that's one line. And actually it's easier to cut little bits off at a time than it is to cut the middle and then halve it again. That's more difficult. So I then measured 120 from this edge, that's 12 centimeters, and 120 mil from this edge, that's 12 centimeters. So now I've got my 4 lines, and I just keep stripping it off now until I've got my 4 pieces, 2 of which will have finished edges and be used on the door side, and the other 2 which will have 2 unfinished edges which are used just to keep the same space at the rear of the cabinet. And again, just to remind you, this is about making those filler strips in between the doors for the more finished look. Now I made the choice to work off one wall and keep going, in this case to the left, so I could square each door up as you went along and then move to the next one, so I didn't have any problems with lining the doors up. Of course, this means when I get to the end, I can't actually, because of this radio, I can't slide out this unit, this last unit, in order to fix it to the wall by drilling holes. So I could either use things like window anchors or through anchors, which you hammer through the you can drill through into the wall and then fix through something into them, but the trouble is I've also got this gap, so I suppose I could use a piece of wood and then drill through it with through anchors. What I'm actually going to do is I'm using this batten, and I've super glued some spacers on it, some of those plastic assorted plastic packers, to make up the right size, which is 10 mil. So I've super glued 2 together using the fast activator spray, and then I've super glued those to the piece of wood. They'll slide in there nicely, and then I can screw them into the side of the unit with that. So what I'll then do is attach some adhesive, either no more nails or grip fill, probably grip fill, and then as I screw it in, the grip fill will then go off and attach it to the wall. So that's the plan. Okay, so I'm about to hang the final door. As you can see, I've got that one batten I put along that's screwed in from the side and attached to the wall. Actually, I used no more screws from Toolstation, which is probably just like no more nails. And luckily I used the water-based one because I got it all over the wall sliding it in. If I was to do it again, I'd put a bit of foil or something against the wall as I slid it in, so as not to leave skid marks all over the wall. Luckily, because it was water-based, came off easily with a cloth. And then I've screwed to this side of the wardrobe some other bits of batten, like so. The top one will have the frame goes atop the wardrobe attached to it as well, probably. So now it's ready for an infill piece, which is my last bit of half wardrobe door I've got left. So hopefully I'll be able to cut that down so it hits the wall and the nice ends here, and then I'm just going to put a bit of curved trim up the side there and paint it either white or the same colour as the wall. Okay, wish me luck. Okay, so I've now put in the filler strip that I cut out of a piece of door on the side there where you could see before there was the battens. The wall isn't completely flat from top to bottom, so you can see there's a bit more of the no more nails, no more screws stuff in the middle than there is at the top. I've just put a space from there where it goes off. Before I put that sealant down the side, I super glued it with super glue activator to those battens to hold it in place. So it'll be super glued there, and also it'll be no more nails to that wall, and then obviously lots of cleaning it off after that. There's a plan then to use this. This is like a curve on one side, and it's got a 90-degree on the back of it, and it's used to hide joins like that. You can get it in B&Q. So that's going to be the next stage. But first I need to go to IKEA now and buy a few more doors to cut up. One door to cut in half to do the top, and one door to cut in half to do the bottom. So as you're going to see, we've now attached the last bit of the trim on here, which is looking nice. This is the end of today's work, and the whole 4 meters of wardrobes is now all assembled and attached to the walls and to the floor, which is making it very sturdy. What we do need to do now is, like I say, trim along the bottom and a trim from there to the ceiling. We were originally going to put coving along there, but actually we're probably deciding we might not. We can always add it later. What we'll probably do is just cut with the multi-tool flush with there, and then just have no coving along here, so it's a nice smooth continuous grey all the way to the ground, to the ceiling. So obviously that's going to be made out of 2 doors. One door cut in half up there, and one door cut in half down there. It's like a door Lego set. Right, so I'm now doing the top bit. So what I first do is I've marked off, using a straight edge off the wardrobe, I've marked the coving where it is exactly the same as the outer face of the wardrobe, and then I'm going to use the multi-tool here to cut out, like I've done over here already, so that I can slot up a piece of half door trim. That's a door cut in half to be a trim, and this time I'll have to measure it a lot more carefully because it's got to fit exactly to the ceiling. My wife wants to see what it looks like with just the trim there at the top and not coving first. So we're doing it neatly like that. If she then decides she'd like coving, then I guess I'll cut further back here, because I'll cheat and use pre-made corners because they're very difficult to do. And it's easier just to use pre-made ones. But for the moment I've cut it exact, and I'm going to put the top trim along and see how it looks. To decide what length of what height of trim only at the top, I decided it was far too dangerous to just measure the measuring tape. So what I did is I used a stick, and I put it, a piece of wood, and put it up to here, and then marked it, and I went all the way along and marked different places on the stick, you know, on the bit of offcut, to see where it ended up. And actually everywhere except the far right ended up pretty much here. It's only the far right that's here, which means the ceiling must dip up a bit over there. So I can't cut that, otherwise it won't fit anywhere else. So we're going to go with that one, and then drew it around here, decided what sort of size gap I wanted along the top of the door, the cupboards before the trim, and then drew another line, and that I'll then measure, and that will be what I use to cut my door pieces. I shall then line it up with the bottom of the top of the cupboards, and then just make good at the ceiling height. Ceiling isn't very flat, and so rather than cut my nice piece of wood, I've had to take a little chunk out of the ceiling, put some spaces in to set it up. As you can see, my hole in the ceiling's worked a treat, because cutting little bits off the door I've trimmed wasn't very neat. So there we go. So I'm just offering it up now, seeing where it fits, like so. And then I'm measuring on the ceiling where that one comes up to. And then I'll put the other one up, which of course is going to be too long, and then I'll measure where that one comes up to, and then I'll subtract the difference between the measurements in the middle, measure the bit in the middle to see what size it is, and that's how much I have to cut off. And obviously I cut it off one of the ends that's going to a wall, not off the middle. So one of them's up now. I ended up using little bits of CLS along the top instead of one long strip, because then you could push it in and out along to match the doors more. The compromise is that if you open the doors, I'll have this gap here to get over later, which I'll have to fill with something and then paint grey. If I'd done it all in CLS all the way along, it would have been easier because I could have just painted that, but then you can't sort of push it in and out to make up for the different alignments of the doors. Okay, well, it looks like on the other half, actually, maybe I could have done it on the first half, the beam, actually just one works okay. Okay, so here you can see I've attached the beam by screwing up from below where the lights are in the cupboard, so you can't actually see it. So that beam's all screwed up, aligned with the frame edge. And then I'm going to attach this door trim, which I've sprayed with contact adhesive. So this you spray on, you leave it 30 seconds, and then when you press hard on it, it sets as you press it, which is quite handy. So it means I can line it up before it goes off. So it's all done. You can see the trim at the top and the trim at the bottom. I just need to do a last little bit of filling along top, but I don't really need to do a video for that. Other than that, it's all finished. Looks very nice, very integrated. One thing, I suppose I'll show you the inside of it in a minute, but not right now. I'll show you in a bit. Bye. One last little video clip as a tip. Where you've got a room that's more than the width of a door for the trim at the top, if you get a piece of the bits in the middle of the door, obviously when you've cut it up are wasted because they've got exposed internals on both sides, but the end strip you can sort of scrape it off with a knife very carefully, and then you can use that as a finishing strip to the middle to hide the join. And likewise, so then you can't actually see it from a distance at all, really. Otherwise, obviously, you've got a join where the two bits of door meet in the middle because it's too long for a single door. And same at the bottom, where we've got this whole kicker board made out of door panels. Again, if you look closely down the bottom, you can see I've used some of that edge of a door to glue on there, and it comes off quite nicely if you just scrape it with a knife just behind it, and then you can use it to cover things.